Hey folks, it's Ash from BeingSwenglish, and this is the second video in my sequence about solar panels in Sweden and whether they're really worthwhile. I decided to go with a company called Sesol, and I've heard good and I've heard bad, but what I haven't found on the internet is any video talking about how the experience actually went. Real world customer experiences. All I've read are comments in forums which can be very positive or very negative. Now, Swedish summer is kind of in full swing. We've had at least 4 days of sun, but joking aside, it has actually been quite a warm summer, but it's very frustrating because I just want the solar panels in now to be gathering all of this sun, and it does take a long time. It seems that the average install is between 4 to 6, possibly even 8 weeks. In the first video that I published, I talked about the identifying the right company, signing the contract, payment, and then initial dates and planning. Well, the good news is that the install is now complete. It has been a month since my first video, and some things went very well, some things could have been better. First of all, there were some install problems which I think could have been avoided if the survey of the property originally would have been better. I could also have had more solar panels installed on the roof. And I'd like to have seen a bit more flexibility from Sesol during the install. But I'm going to talk about all of these topics in more detail in this video. If you haven't seen the first video, you'll need to watch that for the background information, so click the little link in the corner of the screen wherever it is. But anyway, the install proposed week started to get close, and so I called Sesol on the 20th of June to find out what's happening. I was supposed to get a delivery of equipment, and when I phoned up to say nothing had arrived, they were a little bit surprised as well. He promised to call me back, but shortly after I got an email with delivery instructions and a date saying that everything would arrive a few days later. I then called them back to say, okay, the kit is now here, which had arrived on Monday, delivered nicely and safely on a big, massive pallet. And I asked, when will the actual install start? And they said, well, we're not sure, maybe sometime that week. Now, I'm a very, perhaps it's an OCD thing, but I like things to be organized, planned, scheduled, and on a deadline. But it seems that in this industry, they have a lot of resources running around doing lots of things, and there's no way for them to actually commit to dates. So it's all a little bit flexible, which kind of is good for some people, but for me, I like an exact date planned well ahead of time. On the other hand, this is Sweden's summertime, and it's a notorious time when people are just not there in the workplace. Everyone goes off on holiday and businesses shut down for 4 to 6 weeks. So I have to, keep that in mind and be a bit patient. So anyway, back to the delivery. On the 24th of June, 4 days later, all the kit was here. It was on a big pallet. It wouldn't fit in the garage because of the struts that were sticking out of the top of it. It was packaged moderately securely, I would say, although I could very easily peek inside and see what is in there. There was also a packing note on the outside which contained a list of everything in there and all of the expensive kit. And so the first thing I decided to do was actually unpack some of it and move it into the garage myself. The batteries cost a lot of money. And of course, all the signs and stickers on the outside give an indication to anyone walking past that there's something expensive in there. I would have preferred Sesol to have perhaps asked for these to be packaged in a better way so that they would slide into the garage. But yeah, moving it in personally, I thought was quite important to do. The package also said that it was GPS tracked. I don't know whether it actually is. I don't think so. But anyway, yeah, it was, I guess, a warning sign to anybody thinking of poaching the kit. The next day, Tuesday the 25th of June, I got a phone call from the scaffolding company saying that they're coming back because they need to expand the scaffolding. Now, this, I believe, is another surveying problem. We made clear that I wanted the cable run down the side of the house, and to achieve that, they're gonna need to get up there. And that needs scaffolding. Now, they could have installed that side scaffolding the first visit from the scaffold company, but I believe that the surveyor hadn't told them that they needed to install it there. Not a problem though, the scaffolders arrived, put up the side scaffolding, ready for the installation. Finally, I get a call to say that the install will start a few days later on the Friday. And on time at 7 AM, a bunch of friendly Swedish guys arrived. Now, what I really like is that they're really professional, they are very friendly, they're all in Sesol uniform, and they arrive in a Sesol van. Sounds silly, sounds minor, but to me that just says professionalism. It says that this company wants to invest in its employees looking professional. It wants to invest by giving them a van that's branded, not just sending them out in some old white van or using random subcontracted traders who are just contracted in and used. It seems that all the staff are actually Sesol, from the installers to the electricians, etc. And that's good to see. But as they started to unpack all of the kit and get up on the roof to have a look and check what had been delivered, they realised that these big long struts that attach between the slats on the roof were the wrong size. So unfortunately the fitters have had to go home because they ordered the wrong metal pieces, the bits that go across that the panels sit on. Apparently the ones spec'd by the surveyor are too short, so they've got to order some longer ones and come back. Now they did say to me, look, I can install this anyway if you want, but it will fail in inspection. And I loved that honesty. I said to him, that's really good of you to say, because I suspect out there are solar companies who would just do it anyway. And maybe it would fail the inspection, but they wouldn't care. They'd be finished and gone and on to the next project. He said there's a certain threshold you need either side to clip the solar panels onto these bars, and that these were too short. They could install it, it would be fine, but it would fail an inspection. It would be perfectly usable and etc. But also it would be in contravention of the manufacturer's warranty of these mounts. And so not only would it fail an inspection, but it also wouldn't be supported in years to come if one of these were to fail. I applaud that honesty from Sesol and the engineers and the installers on that day. I'm not convinced that every installation company would bother to do that. So the result of that is that on Friday the install was cancelled. It was quite disappointing because I was excited to get everything installed, but on the other hand, my friends had come over from the UK for a good old beer session, so actually I'm kind of glad that that weekend I didn't need to be in and around the house. So anyway, finally Monday arrived a few days later, and they arrived with the right equipment and the install started. Friendly guys again. One of them was off sick, but another guy arrived in his place, carried on the job, and then the other guy arrived back later as well, and they got it all done that day. Now, interestingly, when the guys were up on the roof, they did identify that I could fit more panels up there. That was great news to me, because these panels are maybe, I don't know, 2,000, 3,000 krona per panel. The idea of just being able to say, brilliant, install them, do it, would have been lovely. It would have meant an additional amount of incoming power. It would have meant pushing the total generation up beyond 6 kWp. So I said, okay, brilliant, let's phone the office and see what they can do. This is where the flexibility aspect should come in. As a customer, I should be able to say, your guys are here. They've said it'll take 15 minutes to put extra panels on the roof. Let's do it. But upon calling Sesol, it was frustrating that they said I'd have to go through the whole sales process again, that this current contract is locked down now and there's nothing they can do. Really frustrating when it means an extra 3 panels could have gone on my roof and there was nothing I can do about it. I can't install them myself because then they wouldn't be under the warranty. It would change the Sesol warranty against the whole install. It means I now have to go through the whole process. The scaffold's come down since, so they'd need new scaffold again because of the regulations around safety. And it means a whole lot of extra expense to book the guys to come out again. Really, really frustrating and quite disappointing because it's not my fault that the survey wasn't done properly. I think it's Sesol's fault. They should have measured the roof properly, very accurately said how many panels I can get on the roof, and charged me accordingly for it so that it could have been done in one go. I was hoping that given this was Sesol's miss, that they would have had a bit of flexibility around this, but they didn't. So I've got 13 panels up there. I could have had 16, and that would have made all the difference. But the reality is the cost to rebook them to come out now again is really just not worthwhile in regards to the revenue that those extra 3 panels would bring in. So the install was all completed. I got the drone up there again to just survey it all. The guys were really careful. They didn't damage anything, and really impressed overall with the installation and the friendliness of the guys. A few days later, the scaffolders arrived, took the scaffold down. So again, really efficient, wasn't waiting for 3 weeks for the scaffold to be taken away. That came down very neatly and they cleaned up afterwards. So about a week later, I then had heard nothing, but I then got an email saying that basically the install's complete and the electrician is expected to arrive between 3 to 5 weeks later. Now again, Swedish summer holidays, so I kind of have a bit of patience there, but I would get notified before the electrician arrived. At this time, all the kit was installed on the roof and the basic kit installed in the garage. So the battery was built up and sat there, the inverter above it, and also the cabling out of the house up to the actual solar panels themselves, but nothing's connected live yet. And now here we are 3 weeks later on the 22nd of July, and the electrician has just arrived. Again, branded in uniform and with a Sesol van. So he'll be now connecting an extra box that he brings, which is the check what box, which goes above. He'll also connect the battery to the main consumer unit. He'll also connect the inverter via Wi-Fi to the internet. He'll connect the check what box to the internet via a cable, unfortunately, because it's not wireless. And he'll also run a cable from the main electric point coming into the house back to the inverter and everything, which apparently monitors voltage or something. Interestingly, some of the comments around this whole kraftfull service from Sesol, where you don't own the battery but you make a percentage of the profit, is, well, you can buy the battery and every year it's reduced by 10% the price. They base the battery price at around 150,000 from day one. Now I thought that's ridiculous because the battery you can buy new for about 50,000 krona. But what I've found out since is that CheckWhat is not a case of getting a battery and turning on the service. So if you've got your own battery, you can't just turn on CheckWhat. You need a special box installing, which you have to buy, of course, a mini computer. You need the service connecting via an electrician together with your battery. And then you need to apply to the grid and get things enabled. You need extra cables, etc. So when you look at the price of this kraftfull service, it's not that they're overpricing the battery. The fact is that if you decide to buy the battery from Sesol after a year or 5 years or whatever, you're buying the whole installation and the CheckWhat box and everything, not just the battery. Anyway, back to the now. The electrician has gone. He couldn't finish, unfortunately, due to a wiring problem, which, to be fair, isn't his fault. Let me explain. Coming into the house is a mains cable which goes up to this main breaker up here. And that cable, would you believe it, goes out of the house, under the ground, under here, and basically out to here where there is the electric box on the side of the house. And the problem encountered by the electrician is that when he tried to run this extra cable that's required down through the conduit out of the house and to the main incoming power supply, the conduit seemed to be blocked about 15 meters in. So that friendly electrician apologized and said, "I'm sorry, I've got to carry on and come back another day." So he said he'd come back on Monday, but he was then ill. So Sesol sent another electrician, another lovely Swedish guy, very friendly, but there'd been no proper handover between the two electricians, and that was a bit of a headache in itself. But after much perseverance and a lot of effort from him back and forth with different pulling tools, he eventually pulled a brand new wire into the house from the main electric box. A work effort far beyond what I expected Sesol to do and at no extra cost. So I'm really happy about that, which means that it could all be then turned on, which is quite exciting. They've also left a brochure here which describes the order in which you must turn everything on when you're starting or restarting the system. After doing that, we then installed the app called iSolar Cloud and onboarded my install into the app, which gave me live monitoring. And I know it's super, super geeky, but this is the bit I think I was most excited about, because from the start of this being turned on, you fire up the app and you can see all of these figures live. And there's something quite exciting about that. I don't know why. Now, what I didn't also realize it would give me is live monitoring of what the house is consuming, because I was about to buy a Tibber Pulse, which is like a live real-time monitoring device, but actually the inverter here shows the house's consumption live in real time. So that's quite interesting, as well as the incoming solar power, how much you're selling back to the grid, how much you're pulling from the grid, and of course how much the panels are generating live. Now, during just the time that he had it on to test it all, you can see the production, and that was quite exciting. But then when he was finished, it all had to be turned off, sadly. And that's because with a new solar install, the power that you're generating is all feeding into the grid, via this box here. And so for that reason, before you turn any of it on, it needs inspecting and basically certifying by the energy provider. So once that was complete, I thought that that would be it, but no. The meter that goes inside this box, this is actually the new one, needed to be replaced. And I was told that until it was replaced, I still couldn't turn everything on, all of the incoming solar generation. So that was yet another frustration. But that's not Sesol's fault, and so I again phoned my electric provider and I said to them who is dealing with this and when will it happen, and they gave me the number of a consultant, and within 3 days I had the new meter fitted, which is pretty incredible actually. Now there is another aspect that I'm not very happy about, Sesol. When signing up, I took Sesol's option of 2 years interest-free, where they sign you up for Wasser credit. Now, I'd never heard of them, but that there is the Landsversäkringer logo, so I thought all good. I put half of the total amount onto this card, so 50,000 kroner, and what has annoyed me is you see this little fee here, Avgift, 45 kroner. It's not a lot of money, but where's that come from, I asked. So I called Wasser Credit, and it turns out that this is added every month for the credit. So this is interest-free on the amounts that you put on the card, but you're still charged 45 kroner a month for the courtesy of that credit. Sesol didn't mention that, and that is not fair. Now, in the scheme of things, it's not a massive amount of money per month, but if you add it up over the 2-year interest-free term, it amounts to just over 1,000 kroner, and I just think that's annoying. So I'm probably going to actually pay it off, but Sesol should inform customers of that. They might argue, well, it's in the contract when you sign it with Wasser, but it still should be made very clear. It's not 2 years interest-free if effectively you're being charged an interest. So anyway, that's my solar journey so far with Sesol. And overall, I would say a pretty good experience. I think their transparency could be improved. They need to be more flexible on install to just let me have a few more panels and invoice me for it. It should be very, very simple. And also timekeeping. I want a tighter schedule. I want to see things done to a date structure, approached like a project. I mean, that would just make so much more sense for them and also for me as a consumer, so that I know what's going to happen, when it's going to happen. And finally, communication between all of the different parties. So between the energy provider, the electrician, the scaffolders, the solar panel installers, just better communication and alignment between them all to make the whole process much smoother. It has been now a month since it was all installed, and I'm really excited watching the stats come in every day. The energy imbalance website is what you're provided with from CheckWatt, and that lets you see how CheckWatt's doing and the kind of income and revenue that's coming in. And I have to say that right now, that revenue is not very impressive. So I don't think the revenue split there is going to be very profitable, and I do wonder what Sesol will do with these expensive batteries that they're giving customers for free long term. Because if this doesn't work out for Sesol, then I'm sure they're going to say to us consumers, look, do you just want to buy the battery? If so, here's the price. And I'm certainly not going to be paying the high fee that they've proposed for this CheckWatt box if CheckWatt effectively is not profitable for me. I will be putting out a video in the next few months talking about my views since install. How much is it generating? And I'll share with you the real figures. How much money I'm getting from selling back to the grid, how much I'm getting from CheckWatt or Kraftful, and also how much it's saving us in terms of a household from having solar up there. Talking about sharing real life experiences, I did try and share this video to one of the biggest solar Facebook groups out there in Sweden, and unfortunately the video was deleted. I don't know why it was deleted because I'm not sponsored by anybody. This is a free channel and I've criticised Sesol as much as I've promoted the install and everything. However, the admin of the group, a guy called Nicholas, who apparently has a bit of a reputation, decided to simply delete it without telling me. There were lots of comments on the video, lots of interest, lots of likes, and people subscribing to see more. But when I questioned him and asked, why have you deleted it? He just replied, Sesol are crap. I think that's what he said. Which is pretty amateur and pretty unprofessional of this guy, who apparently has a business as a solar install inspector. But I also hear from several people in the group that have messaged asking where the video's gone that this guy in the group is a little bit greedy and he purely runs the group for profit and money. And if a company doesn't want to pay for their name to be mentioned in his group, then he doesn't allow any posts about that company. Pretty pathetic. It's so important for videos like this to be out there in the wild that talk about all companies, the pros and the cons of those companies. And by censoring content in his group like this, it means that real world experiences like this can't be heard by the wider public. One final note, Sesol, if you're watching this and you want to comment or give a right reply, then I would love to do a video with you guys. So maybe we can video call and record it and post it on this channel to address all of the problems that I've raised in this video series. Be sure to subscribe to this channel if you want to see more about my solar journey. Thank you very much for watching, comment below, and see you on the next one.